If you were born prior to the mid-90s, you likely remember when the entertainment industry was severely gatekept, a time where if you wanted to be on a television show, you had to audition for a talent agent, then acquire a script, go to an open call, be selected for a follow-up audition, then audition for the casting director, then audition for the actual director, go through a chemistry reading, work through negotiations, and only then would you potentially have the chance at being the lead in a show. So many things would have to go right for you to begin to get the chance to be a minor celebrity that when someone made it, it felt special. Even when they only acted in daytime soap operas or the list of credits was small, they had gained some modicum of success, which they could actively point to down the road. And because there were so many hoops to jump through to gain any bit of success, the benefits felt greater. The same was true of the music and modeling industry, as they were strictly controlled, usually by men and women who used the power they had over their wards to exploit them. Though this case is not technically about that, we would be remiss not to mention that those in power often wielded that power irresponsibly. See our videos on Phil Spector, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, and Victor Salva for further examples. They had worked extremely hard, likely put up with horrendous conditions, and done things that they weren't proud of, and likely gained a fair bit of trauma themselves, but at least they had gotten what they wanted. However, social media and sites like YouTube have successfully disrupted the industry, both for better and for worse. On one hand, you have creatives using these platforms to make content that they wanted to see themselves, and garnering a significant audience all around the world. Creators like Danny and Michael Filippo were able to post their content on YouTube for years, building a significant fan base while earning a hefty income, which they used to create one of the best horror films that has come out in decades, Talk to Me. Singers like Justin Bieber and Halsey have used social media in the same way, and writer-director Quinta Bronson got her start posting sketch videos for her social media, as well as for BuzzFeed. These platforms have allowed anyone to become famous, and in turn, has resulted in some of the most interesting art. At the same time, these platforms have been used in order to call out negative behavior behind the scenes, and allow for creatives to have a voice when they see injustice in the industry. Previously, if someone was exploited on a film set, they could try to speak out about what occurred, but there was no real avenue to do so. They could try to talk to a reporter, but the moment the studio would be asked to comment on it, the story would be killed and the publication would likely see a tremendous payout. The majority of people would never learn of their claims, and they would have no avenue to try and get the word out themselves. That actor would be blacklisted, smeared in the media, and be labeled as difficult to work with. But with platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, they could speak up for themselves, without fear of being silenced. But when anyone can be famous for anything, there are obviously no barriers for entry. Then you get people like Ali Abulaban.
He says he and Anna grew apart after they settled in San Diego. He blames the move and their lifestyle choices for ruining their marriage.
That was part of the downfall because my wife brought us, she wanted me to move her out here with all her friends to a life where there's Taco Tuesday, Women Wednesday, Party Saturday, Bar Sunday.
Lee says Anna partied too much, but when we spoke to Anna's childhood friend and Ali's cousin, they painted a different picture.
He's a bad guy. There's nothing good about him. He's selfish. That's all I can say, is selfish.
Pulls out like a full bag of cocaine, not like a little bag, a big bag. And we're like, what the hell? You know, are you trying to get us all in trouble? He goes, I'm Gin Kid. I can do whatever I want. Nobody can touch me. I'm Gin Kid, you know?
Slapping.
Her friends?
Slapping Anna.
I would never do that in public. I never did that.
In the end, the judge sentenced Abulaban to the maximum, life without parole, plus an additional 50 years to life for using a gun.
The bottom line here is he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there. Please.
Family.
Welcome back to another episode of Dreading, or if this is your first time here, welcome. Today we are going to be reviewing the case of Anna Abulaban and Rayburn Cardenas Barron, and how her famous husband attempted to get away with murder. This case occurred relatively recently, but we cannot emphasize just how many requests we've had to cover this in the past few months. I am hesitant to say that this is our most requested video. However, upon last checking, we received a little over 300 emails where viewers like you asked us to talk about this case and review his time on the stand. As always, if there is a case you would like to see covered, or a story you wish to bring more attention to, let us know by emailing us at dreading.official@gmail.com. We go through our emails daily, sorting our requests, and adding more to our list of stories to cover, with the ultimate goal of filling every suggestion sent in. It may take us some time, but our hope is to provide you with all the content you want to see, thoughtfully and respectfully. This video, like so many others we have made, deals with domestic violence, and as such, if you are sensitive to that material, I would recommend that you click off of the video now to preserve your own mental well-being. Our videos are often rightfully demonetized by YouTube, due to our unwillingness to change our speech, and there is no watch time metric that is worth putting yourself in a compromising position. This warning, of course, is only as useful as you allow it to be, so proceed with caution. I also want to state up front that reporting around significant aspects of this case has been sparse, and what there is can be contradictory. We'll do our best to notate when the information that we were given is up for debate or when it is agreed upon, but if you are familiar with this case, then you probably have already seen how the reporting has changed over time. So, with all of that said, let us begin. Ali Abulaban was born May 25, 1992 in Staten Island, New York. His family was Middle Eastern, and he grew up as a first-generation Muslim American, which he described as making his childhood incredibly difficult. His father was extremely demanding of Ali, repeatedly telling the young boy he should be Muslim before anything else, and emotionally, verbally, and physically abusing him whenever he was to step out of line. According to Ali, all he wanted to do was fit in with his peers, to be seen as normal and cool in their eyes, but every time he did, he was punished severely by his father. If he were to act too Muslim with his peers, he'd be ridiculed and isolated, made to feel as if something was deeply wrong with him for not being more like them. But if he were to act too much like them, his father would lash out at him violently. He was under an absurd amount of pressure as a child, and things would only get worse after the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Over time, he became riddled with social anxiety, feeling as if he could do nothing right, and during this time, he would begin to watch movies as a form of escapism. He would watch certain movies on repeat, memorizing the lines and turning around and acting them out, even when no one was there. Though his life was tough, he would fantasize about his future, how he would become famous one day, and have everything he ever wanted. Money, power, beautiful women, it was all in his future. He just needed to find a way to make it happen. As Ali grew up, the abuse began to escalate with his age. This is not atypical of abusive parents and guardians, especially when they are abusing their male children. As the child begins to age and come into their own as an adult, the parent tends to see them as more of a threat. They realize that the child that they have spent over a decade hurting is no longer an easy target, and could retaliate if they wanted to. Instead of changing their behavior, they lash out even more violently against their victim to keep them from realizing their own strength. Wanting to escape the violent home life that he had been raised in, Ali would join the United States Air Force. Although he faced a significant amount of racist abuse from his peers, with even his direct superiors calling him a terrorist for being Middle Eastern, it was a massive improvement in Ali's eyes. He began to make friends for the first time, and developed a comedic style that his peers seemed to love. He would do impressions, make jokes at his own expense, and became the life of the party. But he similarly began to display more controlling behaviors. When things didn't go his way, or when a friend did something he didn't like, Ali would throw tantrums like a child. If he viewed someone as acting against his best interest, even if it was for something as small as them not remembering something he had told them, he would begin to sincerely believe that they were his enemy. He'd feel justified in verbally abusing them, the same way his father had done to him, and would even strike them in order to punish them, so to speak. He was extremely emotionally immature, and would begin to mirror his father's negative behaviors. In his mind, what his father had done to him was wrong, but when he would do it to others, it was perfectly justified. Ali seemed to develop an aversion to negativity that was so strong, he would regularly lash out at anyone who made him feel bad, no matter if they were technically responsible for it. If you brought Ali bad news, like saying that he couldn't go to the movie theater because it was shut down for renovations, he would get upset. But instead of moving on with his day and realizing that nothing could be done and it wasn't your fault because you didn't shut down the movie theater, he would insult you and belittle you and try to hurt you the way that he felt you hurt him. The people around Ali at this time would describe the man as being charismatic and charming, but being volatile. And then he met Anna. Anna was a year younger than Ali and was born in 1993 in the Philippines. Her father was in the military, and when she was younger, he'd been stationed in Okinawa, Japan. Those who knew Anna throughout her life would describe her as being a bright, kind-hearted person. She was extremely popular and charming in her own right, but had the ability to make almost everyone feel included. Multiple of her friends throughout her life would describe how she would go out of her way to make sure they felt loved and cared for. usually by planning some big get-together. She never wanted people to feel alone, so every birthday, graduation, anniversary, or milestone, she was present, with a gift and a party to let her friends know how much they were loved at the big shindig. She was also extremely intelligent, having obtained a science degree from the Technological University of the Philippines, and also obtained a master's degree. People in her life would often downplay her intelligence, but it was something that she was extremely proud of. She would be described as being funny, smart, compassionate, and just an altogether well-rounded person. Men in particular were extremely drawn to Anna due to her beauty, and that was especially true of Allie. When he had met Anna, he was obsessed with her. He talked about her constantly, even before they were dating. He would describe her as being the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and how they needed to be together. He liked other qualities about her, but those closest to him at the time would state that he was obsessed with her looks, and how good they would look together. From the moment he'd met Anna, he was focused on her. He would go out of his way to bump into her and spend time with her, and she was flattered by the attention. He treated her like she was the most important thing in his world, and his sole focus was on making her happy. Some reports indicate that while she was attracted to Allie, she didn't immediately share his romantic feelings, wanting to keep their relationship platonic. But Allie wouldn't accept that, and as time went on, he became more and more present in her life. Soon, they were spending almost all of their time together, and finally decided to become a couple. Things were great at first. Allie continued to shower Anna with attention and treat her like a goddess. He would tell her that she was the most amazing woman, that he was so lucky to have her by his side, and that he would do anything for her. Though he was prone to throw tantrums when he didn't get his way, Anna thought it was just a slight drawback to an otherwise perfect relationship. But then, things began to change. After a few months of dating, Allie's mask completely dropped. As previously mentioned, Anna was extremely outgoing and spent a significant amount of time with her friends. She prided herself on her long-term friendships and would tell Allie as much. She loved him, but she didn't want to isolate herself away from the people she had grown up with, and would go so far as to integrate Allie into her friend group. At first, Allie made an effort with Anna's friends, but right away they felt uneasy about him. A number of her friends would state that when they first met Allie, something felt off about him and fake. He wouldn't do anything overt in front of them, but they felt an underlying tension whenever they were out together, as if he was trying to not appear angry or holding back his real feelings. They also noticed he seemed to be controlling their friend, always saying something negative about what she was doing. If she ordered a drink he didn't like, he'd change her order. If she ordered a burger, he'd change it to a salad, and so on. And if they were to comment on it, he would seem genuinely upset with them. When they brought their concerns to Anna, she hand-waved them. She acknowledged that her boyfriend was controlling, and had the tendency to want her all to himself, but she said that they had nothing to worry about. Allie was a great guy, and they just needed to see the man that she knew. But behind the scenes, things were much worse than they realized. In his mind, Anna wanting to spend any time with someone else was a sign that she didn't really love him, and her insistence on maintaining friendships was a negative quality he needed to train out of her. It was a sign that she wasn't serious about the relationship, and was going to leave him. When she would try to go out, even if it was with all of her girlfriends, even if he couldn't do anything with her, even if her only other alternative was sitting at home alone, he would scream at her. He'd accuse her of cheating or trying to leave him, and it didn't matter what she said in response. He'd break her possessions and threaten her and do whatever he could to try to intimidate her into compliance. Anna would downplay the abuse to her friends, saying that Allie wasn't really all that bad, but things would only get worse. There are two stories, both of which seem to be true, that exemplify this. The first was that one night, Anna and Allie joined her friends to go clubbing. She was still trying to get them to get along, to show her friends that Allie wasn't the controlling, potentially abusive boyfriend they thought he was. But then he began to get irritated. He wanted to leave and go back home, but Anna wanted to stay. He would say that he asked Anna to leave, calmly, because he wanted to go home and talk to her alone. That he simply wanted to spend time with his girlfriend, and that her friends were being aggressive with him, saying that he was being some ne'er-do-well and a party pooper, and they were having a fun time. He would then assault this friend. This instance was witnessed by multiple people. On another night out, a significant number of people would witness Allie slap Anna in the face, again because she wouldn't follow his instructions. Later, while on the stand, Allie would deny this claim, saying, quote, "I would never hit her in public," unquote. Both of these instances have been quoted as being the reason he was dishonorably discharged from the Air Force. The couple would then travel to the Philippines to spend time with Anna's family, at which point they would find out that she was pregnant. Some reports state that Anna had been thinking about leaving Allie prior to finding out that she was pregnant, that she no longer wanted to be in the relationship, and was getting ready to leave him. But when she found out that she was pregnant, she felt as if the child would be best served with two parents. The couple quickly got engaged, and Ali returned to the United States with a plan in place. He was going to get a job, move out of his parents' home, and work on getting Anna a visa so that their daughter would be born in the US. Ali was able to quickly obtain a high-paying job in IT, but the process of getting his fiancée citizenship was a lot harder than he initially thought, and by the time they were able to get Anna to the US, their daughter Amira had already been born. When Anna and Amira moved to the US, reportedly, everything was great. However, the only source of that information is Ali, who now had Anna all to himself. She had no friends, no family, no support system in the US, and was completely under Ali's abusive thumb. If she wanted to do anything for herself, it was heavily controlled, and he was constantly belittling her, accusing her of cheating for wanting to spend any time away from him, and things would only get worse. In 2018, Ali would begin uploading content to TikTok under the name Jin Kid. He would create sketches showing off his comedic skills and gained a significant amount of notoriety by impersonating Tony Montana from the movie Scarface and mimicking NPCs from Skyrim. It wasn't groundbreaking content by any means, but TikTok's algorithm is deliberately designed to make users go viral within the first few uploads, meaning that Ali quickly found a fan base. People loved his content, and due to the nature of social media comments, were extremely hyperbolic in their praise of him. Videos where he pretended to be Tony Montana working as a Starbucks barista would be met with people stating he was the funniest guy on the app, that he should actually try to pursue acting, and that he was solely responsible for helping them deal with their depression. And while these comments can be found on any social media star's page, it should never really be taken seriously, Ali did. He thought after years of fielding racist comments from his peers at school and in the Air Force, after dealing with his father's abuse, and dealing with Anna not blindly obeying him, he had finally found his calling. People were finally seeing how smart, hot, and talented he was, and when a fan made a poster of him as Tony Montana for a fictional prequel, he took it seriously. In his mind, he was talented and destined to transcend TikTok, and he was on his way to becoming a true Hollywood star. Anna would help Ali make these TikToks, and eventually would be featured in them herself, and people began to idolize the couple based on their content. They were careful to keep any of their issues off social media, and Anna herself would rarely post anything about her personal life. After some time and a significant amount of convincing, Anna was able to take a trip out to San Diego, where some of her friends had moved to. She had been on her own in Virginia, and having time away from Ali made her realize just how lonely she had been. After a week away, she returned to Virginia and told her husband that she wanted to move, which he almost immediately agreed to. In his mind, moving to San Diego meant moving to LA, which meant that he could properly pursue his career. Though he was still only doing TikTok impressions in little bits, he thought that when he moved, everything would fall into place for him. Producers and filmmakers would see him, immediately see his star potential, and he'd become a celebrity overnight. So the family packed up and moved across the country, but things would go from bad to worse. As Ali continued to go viral, he began to feel as if he were actually a celebrity. When Anna tried to introduce him to her friends in San Diego, he would ask them repeatedly if they already knew who he was. Oh, brother. And if they were only pretending to not know him because they didn't want to appear weird. He would ask to be called by his username, Jin Kid, and when someone would laugh at the prospect, he would throw a tantrum, accusing them of trying to make him look bad. Yeah, because he needs their fucking help to do that. Ali and Anna would also begin to use cocaine. Anna would use the drug recreationally, when she was out clubbing and away from home. But Ali would use it all the time, even in front of their daughter. Worse still, he was convinced that his drug use unlocked his acting abilities, and that he was famous enough to use his drugs in public without raising suspicions. On at least one occasion, he brought out a small baggie of cocaine while out to dinner at a nice restaurant, and when he was told to put it away by his friends, he responded that it was alright because he was Jin Kid. His affinity for guns, of course, also increased, and he would reportedly bring weapons with him everywhere as a show of force. If he felt like he was being disrespected or talked down to, he would pull out his gun, show that it was loaded, and threaten to kill the other person. If they backed down, he would then laugh, saying it was just a joke, and he was simply pretending to be Tony Montana, and accuse them of being too sensitive. He would do this constantly, and it didn't matter if there were children present. Now, once again surrounded by friends who cared for her, Anna seemed to realize that the relationship was not working. She was no longer isolated, and when her friends encouraged her to leave Ali, she was more receptive to it. Ali's abuse got more brazen, and he would strike her in front of their friends, now feeling as if his social media fame made him completely untouchable. What the fuck? Could you imagine? No, it's okay I hit my girlfriend because I was in Smosh the Musical. Fuck off. But if she went out with her friends by herself, he would call her constantly, leaving angry voice messages and telling her that she was literally killing him. He would accuse her of cheating, say she didn't love him, say she was a terrible mother, and threaten to end his life and their child's life if she didn't return home. Her friends would describe how whenever she would go out, it was always a ticking clock on how long it would be before she would break down and return home, and how there was nothing they could do to stop it. One of the friends who witnessed this was Rayburn Barron. Rayburn, who also went by Ray, was a part of Anna's friend group, and had a pretty significant crush on her when they first met. Again, Anna was beautiful, but she was also kind, and men were drawn to her, even when she didn't share their feelings. When Ray met Anna and Allie, he would make the mistake of telling Allie that he was lucky to be in a relationship with such a wonderful woman, and that immediately upset him. He felt particularly territorial of Anna after that, and constantly accused her of cheating with Ray, even when nothing had been going on. But as Anna began to pull away from the relationship, her and Ray would grow closer. He would tell her that she was a good mother, that she deserved more than what Allie was doing to her, and he would provide her any of the space she needed to vent her frustrations. We should also note that Allie did cheat on Anna throughout the entire relationship, both with people he knew personally and escorts that he purchased for himself. He would state that he loved Anna, but because of his celebrity and his libido, it was unfair that he would be told that he couldn't sleep with other women, because he was a famous TikTok star after all. He was also of the mindset that Anna should not be given the same pass. Allie's behavior continued to get worse as his coke use escalated, and he became insanely paranoid. He realized that Anna was pulling away from him, that her friends were telling her to leave him, and instead of changing his behavior and treating her better, he began to record her without her knowledge. He felt like if he did this, he could properly showcase how terrible she was to him, and expose her, even though the recordings are filled with him verbally and physically abusing her. Anna would repeatedly tell Allie to leave, that she no longer wanted to be with him on these recordings, that she was tired of how he treated her and more, and in response, Allie would boast about how hot he was, so hot right now, and how he was famous on TikTok, and how he could get any woman he wanted. He told her that she was ungrateful, stupid, and completely ignorant to how amazing he was. She would agree and then tell him to leave. Anna was completely checked out of the relationship and told Allie as much, but he didn't seem to realize that fact. In the 3 months leading up to the murders, Anna had stopped masking the abuse and had called the police 9 times. On one occasion, she ran to the neighbor's house to ask them to call the police, as Allie had taken her phone, but each time they were called, he wasn't arrested. This left him feeling untouchable, and he credited his social media celebrity. Anna would also reach out to Allie's mom for help, which Allie recorded. While on the phone, Allie's mother could be heard telling Anna condescendingly that if she really believed that she was in danger, that she should call the cops and leave her son. She seemed to not believe the claims Anna was making, and when Anna said she didn't want him to go to jail because of what that would do to their daughter, Allie's mother scoffed at the idea. His social media use would begin to take a downward spiral, as he would use his accounts to direct harassment Anna's way, and he would record videos and live streams where he was clearly on drugs. On more than one occasion, he would do lines of coke while on stream, and could be seen with coke residue on his nose while doing his impressions. Some people felt as if it was part of the sketch, saying that he was impersonating Tony Montana, so it wasn't a big deal. But as time wore on, it became obvious that he had a huge drug problem. He would talk negatively about Anna online, saying she used him for her visa, that she was a horrible mother, and that he deserved better than her. This caused some of his fans to flood her social media and send her endless amounts of hate. But the final straw came when Anna allegedly witnessed Allie hand their daughter a loaded gun after doing coke in front of her. She realized then that Allie's anger and abuse wasn't just going to affect her but their child, and she told him she wanted a divorce. She didn't want to raise her daughter to believe that her relationship with Allie was normal and wanted to move on with her life. She was done with him and said as much. Allie moved out of the apartment and moved his stuff into a hotel, but seemed to believe that the relationship wasn't over. Despite Anna telling him repeatedly that she was done and that she didn't want to be with him, he felt as if it simply wasn't over and would try to win her back. He would constantly reach out to her, attempting to love bomb her to get back into her good graces, but Anna was done. She had been emotionally checked out of the relationship for a while, and had begun secretly seeing Rayburn in the meantime. Ray had been a comforting presence, and while she had moved on quickly, the two had not begun their relationship prior to her leaving Allie. They kept their relationship secret though, usually meeting in hotels and outside of the home, knowing that Allie would target them both if he found out that Anna had moved on. They worried that he was watching her and took extra measures to ensure that they weren't seen. On one occasion, Ali would Instacart Anna and Amira their groceries, adding a bouquet of roses to the order. He seemed to believe that these flowers would make up for the years of physical, mental, and emotional abuse, and that she would be open to reconciliation once she received them. In his mind, he had done almost nothing wrong in the relationship, and the very assertion that he had was ludicrous. She was being unreasonable, and if he feigned remorse, she would come crawling back to him. He was Gin Kid after all. He was going to be the next Tony Montana. He watched as the items were delivered, and waited for her to text him, thanking him for the flowers and stating that she overreacted. But that didn't happen. She sent one text, saying she received the groceries, and nothing more. This deeply upset Ali. He felt like he had once again gone above and beyond for her. He had gotten her flowers, something that she wanted, made a concerted effort to make her happy, and she was being ungrateful. He could have anyone he wanted, and she seemed to feel like she could just reject him. The anger built in him as he drove to the apartment. He then used the key that he had secretly made, and when he got there, he was shocked to see the flowers had been discarded. Furious, he ransacked the apartment, breaking lamps, picture frames, and destroying their furniture in a rage. After Anna had left him, Ali had Googled how to spy on a partner, and he had found that there were apps for phones and iPads that work as baby monitors, providing a live stream of everything happening on the other end of the line. He downloaded one of these apps listed in the article on his daughter's iPad, then hid it under Anna's bed. In his mind, Anna was his possession, and even though she had stated repeatedly that she didn't love him anymore, that she didn't feel safe around him and didn't want to get back together, she was still his wife. He needed to know where she was, what she was doing, who she was with, every minute of every hour of every day. And if she wasn't going to give him the information, he would take it himself. When Anna returned home, she found the apartment completely ransacked. She immediately knew that Ali was behind the destruction, even though he had returned his key to her. There was no one else in her life that would have done this, but despite that, she immediately told friends that she wanted to clean the home before her daughter was finished with school, just to make sure that her day wasn't affected by her father's antics. Anna told her friends that she was going to get a restraining order against Ali later that day, and hoped that he would take it as a sign that things were really over. She then called Ray to help her clean up the apartment, and when Ali heard Ray at the apartment with Anna, he decided that he was going to end her life. When we've covered cases of domestic violence, we've been mindful to state that the immediate 18 months after leaving an abusive partner are the most dangerous to the victim, as the abuser often escalates their abuse. They will believe that the victim is their possession, that everything they did to them was deserved, and that belief is shattered when they leave, meaning that any restraint they had is out the window. Leaving an abusive partner is often just as dangerous as staying with them, making the journey to safety extremely difficult, and one that often takes a very long time. Ali would do more coke, grab one of his guns, and speed to Anna's home, listening to Anna and Ray talk the entire time. He felt as if she was cheating, betraying his trust, and ruining their relationship, even though she had repeatedly told him that she was leaving him. He recalled screaming at his phone as he listened to her laugh and talk to Ray, and said he was losing his mind, but held himself together enough not to stand out to any other witness. When he got to the apartment, he maintained his composure while in public areas, proving that he was of his right mind. He knew to hide his weapon, to appear calm and relaxed in front of Anna's neighbors and any witnesses. But when he got to the apartment and opened the door, he immediately shot Anna and Ray as they sat together on the couch.
A neighbor's Nest camera captured Ali Abulaban entering the apartment he once shared with his estranged wife, 28-year-old Anna Abulaban, followed by the sound of 6 gunshots. As it played in court, Abulaban bowed his head and cried. Prosecutors say he walked in and immediately shot Anna and 29-year-old Rayburn Barron as they sat on a couch. The video later records Abulaban yelling Anna's name, followed by him in the hallway on the phone with his mom admitting to the crime.
Ray had been shot 3 times in the head and neck, and Anna had been shot once in the middle of her forehead. He then called his mother. Ali then sent the pictures of the bodies to his mom, just to make sure that she fully believed him. Following the murders, Ali, still high on coke, decided that he should call the police. He determined that the best way forward was to pretend that he found Anna and Ray in the apartment, and that he innocently stumbled upon the scene, even though he was breaking into the apartment for the second time that day. Though his understanding of what happened was undoubtedly mired by how high he was, he understood that he had committed a crime, and was present enough to come up with a cover story in order to try and deflect the blame.
My wife and another man were, I found them dead on the couch.
Ali Abulaban emotional in court Tuesday, listening to the 911 call he made on October 21st, 2021, reporting that his wife Anna Abulaban and her companion Rayburn Barron were shot.
Okay, stand by.
Please help my wife. Please help.
Okay, hold on, sir.
Ali on the phone claiming he found the two dead.
Tell me what you saw when you went in there.
I saw my wife on the couch with my wife on her head.
Wife is on her.
I don't know who he is, but I know him. He's been in Ray.
Ray? Okay, well, I know you said your wife was shot in the face. Is that what you said?
Yeah, on the forehead, and he had 2 or 3 bullets in the head.
Ali then hangs up the 911 call, and moments later, San Diego police arrive at the apartment, not sure what they're walking into.
Oh, we got 2 down.
Police's body-worn camera video is too graphic to show. You can see Anna and Rayburn dead on the couch. As this played out as evidence to the jury, Ali and the courtroom were emotional.
Check pulse, guys. Check pulse.
The neighbor who lived across from Anna and Ali's apartment testified that she heard the two of them fighting several times. The day of the shooting, she heard the gunshots ringing out and then saw Ali leave the apartment.
I believe he went towards like the elevator. Then he came back. He screamed Anna a few times. He grabbed something from his doormat, like mail, and then he left.
When Ali hung up, he seemed to realize that there was no way he was going to get away with what he had just done. The situation was too severe. He still had the gun on him, and there was no one else who would have motive to kill Anna and Ray. He left the scene, got back into his car, and went to his daughter's school, picking her up prior to the day ending. He reportedly appeared calm and even-tempered when dealing with the school's administration, despite the fact that he had just murdered his ex-wife and her new boyfriend moments before. Ali took his daughter and began to leave the area. He was allegedly driving erratically, and though he would say that he only told his daughter that he, quote, hurt mommy, unquote, he called his mother once more. He repeated what he had done in graphic detail to her. Ali was attempting to flee the area, which would have resulted in an international search for him and his daughter, and unfortunately, those usually end with both parties perishing. Ali would likely have killed his daughter before allowing her to be taken away due to his documented history of abuse, but thankfully by this time, the San Diego police had put a be on the lookout bulletin to all officers for his car, noting that he was armed and dangerous. As he was driving away from the school, a total of 6 police cars surrounded his own and forced him to the side of the road. They were aware his daughter was in the car and had planned the stop carefully, wanting to ensure there was not further loss of life, and seeing as he had no way out, Ali surrendered. After his arrest, Ali was interrogated for 5 hours, at which point he confessed to having killed Anna and Rayburn. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, but during the first pretrial hearing, Ali put in a plea of not guilty. He claimed that he had innocently come to the apartment that afternoon and found Anna and Rayburn deceased on the couch. Despite the video evidence from his phone and the security footage where he is seen entering the apartment before the gunshots, then is heard calling his mother to say that he killed them, and his own mother confirming he confessed to the police, he stated that it was a giant misunderstanding. He claimed that he is innocent, and he was being falsely accused. He also claimed he had only picked up his daughter from school because he was, quote, scared someone was after them, unquote. Apparently he believed that whoever killed his ex-wife and her new boyfriend would be back to finish the job, and he was solely concerned with getting Amira to safety. The story was unbelievable, given how much direct evidence there was in the case. Ali had left a substantial trail, proving that he was the only one who could have killed his wife, but he refused to admit responsibility. His actions in his mind were completely justified, and he was confident that the world would eventually agree with him. His legal counsel advised him to stay quiet prior to trial, as they created the most robust argument that they could. Their hands would be full, trying to suppress the evidence against him, and they repeatedly told him it would be in his best interest to say nothing unless they were present. But Ali, of course, couldn't help himself. He felt like he knew better, as if his lawyers didn't quite get him, and that they should listen to his advice, not the other way around. He had accrued millions of followers on TikTok. People adored him, and all he needed to do was explain the situation. Then he would be let go. Of course, after he also would flash that blue steel. So, when he was eventually contacted by Fox 5 News San Diego and offered an interview, he jumped at the chance. Before we go into reviewing this interview, the murderer being interviewed after being charged is exceedingly rare, given what a horrifically bad idea it is. To put it in perspective, a defendant taking the stand in their own defense is stupid, but still understandable to some degree. They likely feel powerless, or that the prosecution has mischaracterized them. They want the opportunity to show the jury that they aren't the evil villain that they are painted to be, and maybe to some degree, they believe they can outsmart them. A defense team would try and relay what a bad idea that is, but ultimately it would be their choice. But to go on television to take an interview is such a bad idea that it almost never occurs. It is such a bad idea that it would be understood that the defendant wouldn't do it, because even if they stuck to their original story, they would still be giving their basic defense to the prosecution. There's only 2 other cases we've covered where this has occurred, and that was the case of Diane Downs and the case of Robert Tellis, which is truly terrible company to be in. But again, Ali believes that he's famous. Every time a fan commented that he made their day by posting that his content saved their life and that they loved his work, he took it to heart. He believes that his fans are waiting on his every word, and when the case goes to trial, they'll be lining in the streets, cheering him on. He also believes that everything he did to Anna throughout the relationship was justified, and that he is so charismatic that he can sell his abuse as love. So going into this, we need to understand that Ali's goals are a moving target. His first goal is to continue to deny responsibility and assert that he is somehow innocent. He needs to continue to affirm the story he originally gave, without giving any more details. That way his case isn't negatively affected. His second goal contradicts the first somewhat, as it's to validate the reason why Anna and Ray had been murdered. Ali is a narcissist, and watching the reporting around this case upset him. The press had characterized him as evil, jealous, and possessive, and framed the murders as if Anna and Ray were victims. But they weren't, at least not to Ali. They had hurt him. They forced him to hurt them, and it would be important to Ali to state that even though they were murdered, on some level, they did deserve it. And his third goal, completely unrelated to the first 2, would be to comfort his fans, who he believed were suffering without his content. So let's see if he was successful.
Now to a story you'll see first on Fox 5, a jailhouse interview with a rising TikTok star accused of double murder. Now we want to warn you, the emotionally charged interview may be inappropriate for younger viewers. Now you'll recall in October, a man and woman were shot to death in an East Village high-rise. The suspect is the woman's estranged husband. He sat down with our Kelsey Christensen while he waits for court proceedings behind bars.
Ali Abulaban, husband, father, TikTok star, and also accused of double murder.
Did you kill her?
Don't ask me that.
So that is a bad answer. Obviously, because if you were trying to maintain your innocence, as Ali is, then the answer should be no, I didn't kill her. But Ali has waited his whole life for this moment. He's being interviewed for the news. He's being given the biggest spotlight he's ever had, and he would feel that right now is his time to shine. He's sobbing. Tears are running down his face, his beautiful face, and he's making no effort to hide his emotions. Ali is acting his ass off because he is attempting to look innocent, to look pained, because that equates to sincerity in his mind. This performativity is highly unnatural, but it's more than likely that Ali believes that it is through these tears that he will win the hearts of the public. They will see a man who blames himself for his wife's murder, even though he wasn't the one to pull the trigger. That his only real regret was not being there for her, and not being a better husband, even though a straightforward denial of responsibility would suit him better. He is farming for sympathy, even at the cost of his own freedom.
He's referring to the deaths of his estranged wife Anna Abulaban and her friend Rayburn Barron. They were shot dead October 21st in an East Village high-rise. Prosecutors say just days prior, Anna kicked Ali out of their home. So he installed a listening device on their daughter's iPad and used it to spy on his wife.
Yeah, I was listening on the house with the iPad through my phone.
So when you heard Rayburn's voice, you went to...
I didn't recognize him. I didn't know who it was.
But what were you thinking?
I was freaking out. Oh my God, I caught her. Oh my God. There's a man. And then guess what? I hear nightmare. 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 Nightmare.
Again, this is a fundamentally terrible answer because it shows that he was stalking his ex-wife prior to the murder. Most rational people would agree that putting a listening device under your ex's bed and tracking them and breaking into their home would qualify as stalking, which is a crime. They would see that what he just confessed to as being a huge indicator that he is capable of murdering Anna and Ray, that he was prone to violence and possessiveness when it came to Anna, and that he went over to the home with the intent to murder them. Even if there wasn't any further evidence against him, this statement is damning, especially since he is attempting to justify what he did. In his own retelling, he is animated, going over the various details and trying to get the reporter on his side. He explains that what he did was normal, even though he is admitting to hiding a listening device in his ex's home for the express purpose of spying on her. There is no sense of remorse, no feelings of shame. He doesn't seem to feel as if what he did was unjustified. It was okay because she had another man over. And then he heard R&B. What he did was good and rational because she is the one who forced him to do it. If Allie did something wrong, in his mind, it was never his fault. Everything he did was always justified, even if he killed everybody else.
As you're driving to the apartment. What happens when you get to the apartment?
I go up and I see them.
What did you think? What did you think?
They were nothing. I didn't see that. I don't know. It was a blur.
So Allie appeared to remember that he is not supposed to talk about what he saw or found midway through this sentence. He seemed to believe that if he doesn't respond to this particular question, that he wouldn't be hurting the case, but that's obviously not true. Again, narcissists like Allie tend to believe they are more intelligent and charismatic than they really are, and that they are in control of every situation. He lacks the basic understanding that even by sitting down with the reporter that he's already fucked his story up. He just admitted to getting into his car with a weapon and going to the apartment because he was angry at Anna, that he was so furious when he heard her with another man that he mobilized in order to try and stop her from having consensual sex, which is the exact motive the prosecution gave when they charged him with murder. His story aligns more with the prosecution's theory of events than the one he put forward, and that's obviously the issue. But his hope is that you don't recognize that instead, you, the viewer at home, sees a broken man whose only crime was loving a bad woman, that you blame Anna for leaving a good man and forcing him to listen to her having sex with someone else, even though she wouldn't be at fault for that, because she didn't know that he had planted a listening device under her bed. Allie's emotions seem to be running high, with him repeatedly hitting the metal table, as well as yelling and open-mouthed sobbing at times. His emotions are a spectacle, with him demanding they be seen and heard by everyone around him, which indicates that they aren't actually real. To be clear, there are plenty of instances where you could obviously cry loudly and not be vying for attention, but when you look at the totality of Allie's actions, you can see that that is not the case here. He demands that he be taken seriously, that his emotions are prioritized, and then goes to lengths to achieve that. He's willing to hurt himself, to make himself look crazy, all to get the result that he wants, which in this case is to be comforted by the reporter. He wants her to take his side, so he makes himself look as hurt as possible. Even though he is talking about the murder of his ex-wife and her new boyfriend, the murder he committed, he's still seeking comfort.
I felt like I was on the passenger seat of my own body. When I opened the door and saw who it was, broke my heart. And to see her kissing Ray on my couch, with his feet on my table, with my holding I'm running my apartment, my life, in the house that my daughter sleeps in, on the furniture that I put together. What do you expect a man to feel?
Let me be clear. If someone emotionally hurts you, you are not given carte blanche to physically hurt them in retaliation. If everything that Allie said is true, that Anna cheated on him, that she used him for a green card, that she never really loved him, he is still a murderer. You can be a terrible person and not deserve to be murdered. Mind you, that's not the case, but it still needs to be said regardless. Less than a minute earlier, he stopped himself from stating what he saw when he got to the apartment, because he realized it would hurt his defense. But he immediately forgets that when the interviewer presses a bit more, and is shaking in rage when describing seeing Anna and Ray on the couch together. He jumps into justifying the murder, asking the reporter how she would feel in his position, completely unaware that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you were hurt by an ex moving on, leaving you and causing you emotional pain. You are not then justified in killing them. It doesn't matter if Ray and Anna were sitting on the couch that he put together, in the apartment that they used to share. They both still deserve to live. He is shaking as he screams about this, and you can hear his voice echo in the cement room. Ali is showcasing in no uncertain terms that he feels like what he did was okay, because they deserved it, that Anna was his property, and the fact that she wasn't doing exactly what he wanted her to do meant that he was justified in breaking into the apartment earlier that day, then destroying it and coming back and shooting her in the head. Earlier, we discussed how Ali would throw tantrums in order to get his way. He would scream, hit things, and lash out emotionally until the other party gave him what he wanted. He wasn't afraid of hurting himself or hurting the people closest to him, as long as he got what he wanted, and he perfectly displays that in this moment. Even though the interviewer has remained calm and level-headed, he has escalated his emotional outbursts to an alarming point. She isn't feeding into his behavior, validating it or fighting against what he's saying. But because she isn't agreeing with him outright, he feels he needs to do more. He needs to get louder, strike the table more, cry more, so that she feels scared enough to give him what he wants. He's trying to intimidate her, and you can easily picture how dangerous he can be to any potential partner. If you are watching an inner relationship with a person who exhibits this kind of behavior during arguments, it would be in your best interest to leave. If they lash out at you, hit walls or desks, and refuse to actively communicate, you're not safe. Resources will be left in the description box down below, and I genuinely hope you are able to find safety.
Prosecutors say Ali confessed to both police and his mother that he killed his wife and Rayburn and accused his wife of cheating. Though at this time, prosecutors say Rayburn was just a friend.
I never admitted anything. Police say they have evidence against me. I don't know what it is.
So the prosecution says that you admitted to your mother that you did this, and then you pled not guilty. Can you explain that?
No, I can't.
Shortly after the shooting, Ali was arrested driving on the 15. Police say he had a gun and his 5-year-old daughter in the car.
She was with me when I got arrested.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a gun in the car?
I picked her up from school. I picked her up from school so that I could drop her off at a safe location at my dad's wife's brother, who lived an hour away. But police surrounded me on the highway.
Why did you pick her up?
I picked her up.
From school? Why did you pick her up from school?
Why wouldn't I?
But you picked her up early, correct?
Yeah.
Why'd you pick her up early?
Why wouldn't I?
Again, if it weren't blatantly obvious, Ali is doing a truly terrible job at coming across as sympathetic or likable in this interview, which is extremely important when we talk about jury trials. If a defendant comes across as unlikable, aggressive, and untrustworthy, most of their statements can be hand-waved by juries. Ali is attempting to make it seem like it's no big deal that he picked up Amira from school after he supposedly found Anna and Ray murdered on the couch. Despite his emotional outburst at the prospect of his possession leaving him, he is now trying to maintain his original story, that being that he simply found them, thought he was in danger, and wanted to bring his daughter to a safe house. But that would be a big deal. If that were the truth and the story he would want to go with, he would have to concede that picking up his daughter from school was abnormal, and something that should be justified. Unless he's trying to argue that picking her up was something he did often, he shouldn't feel attacked for justifying it. Ali's beginning to get argumentative with the reporter because she's doing her job. Earlier, his anger seemed to be in line with the events he was discussing, but now, the fact that she's asking him questions at all seems to be aggravating him.
Did you know what had happened?
About what?
Your wife being shot.
I'm the one who called the police.
Reported
it.
I know.
I found them. When I found them, my first instinct was to get my daughter for her safety. To drop her off at a safe location. have nothing to hide.
What happened when you found them?
Ali says he, Anna, and their daughter moved to San Diego in February 2021. He talks fondly about their old life in Virginia.
So we owned a home in Virginia. We had the American dream. We have 2 cars. Our life is great. So I said, let me pick up another hobby.
That hobby is his TikTok personality, Jin Kid. He made videos impersonating violent characters and built quite a following, nearly 1 million fans. He crafted his online persona after his favorite film, character, and actor, Al Pacino's Tony Montana from Scarface.
I miss making my videos. I miss everything. It's my craft. It's my baby. I love what I do. I wanted to be an actor. And I was right there. I was right there. The weekend before all this happened, I was in LA at the Comedy Store. I was talking to producers. I was about to have a talent agent. It was right there.
In case you missed it, Ali just called his TikTok career his baby and is upset that he lost it because he was arrested for double homicide. He's genuinely grieving the loss of his fleeting TikTok celebrity, more than the loss of Anna or his presence in his daughter's life, his actual baby. That is more important to him. Again, Anna was his possession. He killed her because he didn't like the idea of her moving on with her life and no longer being his. But he didn't actually care for her well-being, as noted by the fact that he physically and emotionally abused her throughout the relationship. If he cared for her in any real way, he wouldn't have felt justified in harming her and making her fear for her life.
He says he and Anna grew apart after they settled in San Diego. He blames the move and their lifestyle choices for ruining their marriage.
That was part of the downfall because my wife brought us. She wanted me to move her out here with all her friends to a life where there's Taco Tuesday, Women Wednesday, Party Saturday, Bar Sunday.
Lee says Anna partied too much, but when we spoke to Anna's childhood friend and Ali's cousin, they painted a different picture.
He's a bad guy. There's nothing good about him. He's selfish. That's all I can say, is selfish.
Pulls out like a full bag of cocaine, not like a little bag, a big bag. And we're like, what the hell? You know, are you trying to get us all in trouble? He goes, I'm Jin Kid. I can do whatever I want. Nobody can touch me. I'm Jin Kid, you know?
Again, we should be clear. Even if Anna did everything that Ali said, that still does not justify murder. It also stems to reason that Ali liked living in Virginia because Anna was isolated there. She wasn't able to make friends because of Ali's behavior, and she was completely controlled by him. It was only when she began to break away and find community for herself that she felt as if she could leave him. It's notable that he is characterizing that change as being where the problems began, not when he was discharged from the Air Force for striking her, or when he'd been documented hurting her repeatedly in public, but when she began to feel safe enough to leave.
Your family says that your social media fame changed you. They say that you were doing cocaine, didn't really care about the consequences.
Nope.
Are they right?
That's false. My family doesn't know anything because they never cared.
I asked again about his cocaine use.
Do you think that made you snap? Do you think it changed you?
Yeah, it messed with my brain.
Ali is an idiot. We already knew this, but it's on full display here. Ali adamantly denies using cocaine, despite there being multiple instances of him using the drug while on livestream. He says he never used it, and that anyone who said it is lying, because they didn't actually care about him. So everyone who has said anything negative against him should be discounted, because he doesn't approve of them, or feel as if they care enough to be taken seriously, only to immediately admit to doing cocaine. These two things obviously contradict each other, and can be used to discount everything he says in court. Credibility is all a defendant has when taking the stand, and Ali is absolutely destroying his, but that is not necessarily important to him. He will say and do whatever he thinks is best for him in the moment. Because he lacks the ability to see his own faults, he will find a way to justify both answers, make both of them true, and disparage anyone who thinks otherwise. Logic and reasoning don't work on somebody like Ali, because in his mind, he is always right.
It made me violent, it made me aggressive, you know? When I'm on it, yeah.
Prosecutors say Anna was planning to file a restraining order and that Ali has a history of domestic violence, something Anna's best friend confirms, even though Ali denies ever hitting Anna.
Were you feeling any remorse about this situation?
I'm broken. I'm devastated. I lost my wife. My goal was to just try to get a hold of my family. It was slipping through my fingers. I'm the loser here.
Ali just actually admitted to thinking he is the ultimate victim in this situation. Hashtag tears for Ali, not the woman he killed, not the man he murdered, and not his daughter, who is now without both of her parents, but him, the man who caused all of this for seemingly no reason because he's a loser. He is also extremely performative with his actions. It's not so much that he is generally an expressive person, or that he's talking with his hands. He's acting like he's on a television show and was just given a big monologue. He's acting as if he knows the camera is shooting him from the shoulders up, and he has to keep moving in order to keep people engaged. It's not natural, but Ali doesn't realize that.
I lost the love of my life. I lost the love of my life. Everybody I reached out to when I was going through this problem, when I couldn't get a hold of Anna. Dude, you gotta leave her. You gotta leave her. I know I gotta leave her, but I don't want to leave her. Dude, you're so handsome. You're famous on the internet. You can get any model. I know I can. I don't want to. I want my wife.
Again, Ali can't help himself. To be clear, he's not an unattractive guy, but he's also an aggressive, violent fucking freak whose claim to fame is making skits on an app that is algorithmically easy to go viral on, because the app itself implores it. He's not a model. He isn't so stunningly attractive or funny that everyone is dying to date him. He's just some guy. But he feels special. He feels as if he's better than everyone, especially the woman he killed. He was a gift from God to her, and she should have felt lucky to be loved by him, even if that love was abusive and killed her in the end. He frames her as being the antagonist in his life, even when he destroys hers. Moreover, it shouldn't matter that his friends told him to leave her, because she had already left him. She had told him repeatedly that she was done. He moved out of the apartment. She had stated she wanted a divorce, but he didn't want to be left. If the relationship was going to end, he needed to be the one to end it for his own ego.
Could anyone else have Anna? Could anyone else have Anna?
Not while she's married to me.
So that interview could not have gone worse. Ali admitted to abusing Anna, contradicted himself a number of times, proving his own testimony cannot be trusted, and ended the interview by saying that no one else could have Anna while she was married to him. He had tried to validate the murders while placing the blame on his wife, and admitted to being present at the scene prior to when Anna and Ray were shot, meaning that he was the only one who could have killed them. But chances are that he didn't understand that. If he did believe that the interview hurt him, he would have placed the blame outside of himself and onto the interviewer. She made him look bad. They edited him to look worse, and so on. Nothing was ever his fault, even when it demonstrably was. But things would only get even more dramatic for the wannabe actor. During the preliminary hearings, Ali would become noticeably upset when listening to the evidence against him, as well as the relationship that had developed between Anna and Ray. But as we have noted, Ali was not one to keep his emotions to himself. If he felt any negative feeling, he wanted to inflict it on those around him, more specifically, the person who he felt was responsible for it. If you upset him, he wanted you to be upset, even if you were just telling him the truth. When Detective Sergeant Christopher Lee was testifying about the Nest security camera footage that captured the murders, Ali began to scream.
Experienced a very traumatic event. Is that fair to say?
He created one, yes.
Is that a fair statement?
How did I create one? Elaborate on that.
Oh, hold on.
How did I create one?
Mr. Boulevard? Mr. Boulevard.
Don't inject your own.
Okay. We're going to take a break. Let's
you think I wanted that? Or I found you a photo? I wanted this? Who the are you?
Mr. Boulevard? Mr. Boulevard, I need you to stop.
Again, it doesn't matter to Lee that what the sergeant was saying is true, and that he's simply reviewing the facts of the case. In Ali's mind, he is hurting him. The information he is presenting doesn't make him feel good, so he's allowed to lash out against him. But he didn't just lash out in anger. At one point, autopsy photos were shared in the court, and Ali would lay his head down on the table in front of him and make a show out of sobbing. It was vitally important that everyone in the court hear how sad he was, and when he thought he was being too quiet, he began to yell, "My baby," repeatedly. Ali didn't feel emotions privately. They were things to be observed, tools to be used to gain his social status and a certain response, and he thought that his actions in court would be viewed as sympathetic or remorseful, even though most rational people would feel differently. After the preliminary hearings, Ali's legal team would realize that they needed to change course. With the prosecution's evidence made public, they had a clearer idea of what they were up against, and they could no longer deny that Ali was responsible for the murders. His continued denials would only ensure a guilty verdict and make him look more callous, so they created an alternative argument. They conceded that Ali had killed Anna and Ray, but only because he had been, quote, pushed to the brink of sanity, unquote, by Anna's actions. She had betrayed him, made him paranoid, and her rejection had caused him to lose his mind. When he heard her with Ray, he lost his ability to think clearly, and therefore wasn't responsible for what happened. Their case had no legs to stand on, especially given his violent history prior to the relationship ending, but Ali didn't seem to realize that. By the time the case went to trial, Ali truly believed he'd be walking out of court a free man. If you made it to this portion in the video, thank you so much for watching. Part 2 of our coverage of Ali Abulaban will be up soon. Originally, we planned to include the direct examination in this video, but our internet is still pretty finicky, so we likely won't be able to upload a 4-hour video at this moment. If you're watching via Patreon, we will get that video up as quickly as possible, alongside the cross-examination. Again, we will be upgrading our internet at the end of this month, so hopefully this will no longer be an issue. So thank you for your patience in the meantime. As always, if there's a case you would like to see or a topic you want more attention brought to, let me know by emailing me at dreading.official@gmail.com. If you liked this video and want to see more, consider liking and subscribing. As always, stay safe.